Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1875 AN. Today's date is May 23rd, 2019, and the title of the episode is, This is How the Patriots Have Full Control Over the Economy and China. Now, before I get started, I wanted to talk about trading. There's never been a better time in history to trade crypto, stocks, or binary options. Trade Genius, over the last 30 days, has netted its traders over 22% of their money from spot-on trades. If you never traded before and you want to take advantage of these types of profits every day in the market, I urge you to sign up for one of many Trade Genius's online educational courses. Take control of your financial future. Discover the lucrative world of trading right now through May for their Memorial Day sale. You use promo code MEMORIAL for 40% off all non-bundled items. Check out TradeGeniusAcademy.com. Tell them X22 Report sent you. Let's get into the economic collapse financial news. Now, we need to understand that everything that we report on, we've been reporting on this for quite a while. We've been reporting on a central bank economy. And ever since the 2008 crisis, what we've been seeing is the manipulation get worse and worse and worse as time goes on. Has there always been a manipulation? Yes, there has. But since 2008, it allowed the central bank to do things that no one would even think was possible. And they had to do it to keep the system going long enough so they can, bring in an event. Remember, they had an entire plan. And going back all the way to 1913, all the way up to the present day, well, this has never been a people's economy. Since 71, when we came off the gold standard, the central bank system was let loose, where they weren't attached to gold or anything else. And they were able to create currency like crazy. Now, in the beginning stages, a lot of people thought, whoa, this is great. Look at this. 1 minute, my salary was $5,000 a year in 1971, and now it's $15,000 or $20,000. My house went from, $20,000 or $8,000 all the way up to $50,000. This wasn't because things were getting better. This was because the central bank was creating a lot of currency, which meant you needed more of that currency to get the same exact items. I mean, that is not a good thing. Yes, in the beginning stages, it seems like it is, but in the end, it really isn't. And here we are at the end stage, and guess what? People are struggling, because it takes a lot more dollars to get the same exact items. I mean, think about it. Do you really think the cars today, the automobiles, do you really think with all the technology today, and they can build cars a lot faster with robots and everything else, do you really think the cars need to be $30,000, $40,000, $50,000? Or is it because the central bank, the currency, has devalued so much, you need a lot more of the central bank dollar just to get that same exact item? That's what's really happening. And we need to understand, every time we talk about the economy, we're talking about a central bank economy. Trump knows that he has a limited amount of time. He knows that he came into office, he needs to restructure everything, create the economy for the transition. That's what he's doing right now. So if we look at like home prices, the existing home sales, we've been following this for a very long time. No one should be surprised. They're going to continue to decline. What will prop them up? Stimulus, lowering the interest rates. That is the only thing right now. And when we look at housing, it is falling apart. New home sales, they've collapsed. Existing home sales, they're declining. Pending home sales, not doing very well. What do you think we need? We need stimulus. We need a rate cut. And remember why this is going to be used. It's going to be used to keep the system going long enough so the Patriots have everything in place. It's not to keep the central bank going. The central bank is going to be exposed because there is no event. They don't have the event that they need, which means when the whole thing comes down, all fingers will be pointing at them. Think about what is happening around the world right now with Australia, with Italy, with the UK. Think about the European Union. We'll be talking about Jean-Claude Juncker a little bit later in this report. They're getting nervous. They're getting afraid. They don't know what to do. Their system is falling apart. And they're getting worried. And we'll be talking about that in just a minute. But when we look here in the United States, we see manufacturing and services PMI, they slumped again in May. And this is not a good sign. Even though the statistical numbers which Trump is manipulating, using the tools against the central bank and the mainstream media and the deep state, the underworkings of the economy, the central bank economy, is completely falling apart. And Trump is working as fast as he possibly can to create a people's economy so we're able to transition away from this central bank system. We see that the U.S. farmers are going to be receiving about $14.5 billion in direct trade aid payments. And because of what has been going on with China and other things, the farmers need help. Now, the tariffs have been removed. The farmers can deal with Mexico and Canada. They're also having aid coming their way, and this will help them quite a bit. Now, a lot of people think that China has the upper hand. Yes, they do have manufacturing. Yes, they've been purchasing gold. Yes, they've been purchasing secrets from the U.S. by the treasonous traders. And the central bank was preparing for China to be the next powerhouse. But things changed, and they didn't expect things to change. And while people think that China, since they have all this, they have the upper hand. Now, if everything moved over and they became maybe the reserve currency, or the IMF had the SDR and they were referring back to China as part of the currency, and they had the petro yuan and all this, yes, they would be in power. The one thing that Trump has right now is that the Federal Reserve note, the debt note from the central bank, is still the reserve currency. And Charles Hugh Smith from Of Two Minds points something out that's very, very important. He said, in all recorded history, how many superpowers pegged their currency to the currency of a rival superpower? Put another way, how many superpowers have made their own currency dependent on another superpower's currency? Only one, China. China pegs its currency, the yuan, to the US dollar. It adjusts the peg a bit here and there, but the yuan's value is set by the Chinese state, not by the market of buyers and sellers. Second question. Is pegging your currency to a rival power's currency a sign of strength? The obvious answer is no. It's a sign of weakness. A real financial power issues its own currency and lets the global FX foreign exchange market discover the relative price value of the currency. The financial power trusts the market to discover the value price of its currency, and it responds by raising or lowering the yields on its government bonds and other pricing inputs. Why does China cling to state control of its currency valuation? The obvious answer is that China's economy and global role are too fragile to absorb a major revaluation of its currency up or down. A major loss in purchasing power would raise the cost of energy and other imports, while a major strengthening of the yuan would crush the global competitiveness of China's goods and services. If China wants superpower status, it will have to issue its currency in size and let the global FX market discover its price. Anything less leaves China dependent on the U.S. and its currency, the dollar. If China is so powerful, why doesn't it let its currency float on the FX market like other trading nations until its currency floats freely like other currencies and the yuan's price is discovered by supply and demand? China's global role in currency payments, loans, and reserves will remain near zero. That is a weakness that appears to be insurmountable. Trump knows this. Trump understands that he has power over China. This is why he is in no rush to make a deal with China right now. Now, Bill Blaine, he's out there and saying that Xi is in much more trouble than we think. The U.S. is willing to take a short-term hit from Chinese imports until global supply chains readjust and new domestic and international lines open, knowing the long-term damage is limited. Meanwhile, the hit to China is long-term and directly on production. So when we look at the Chinese production and their GDP, Chinese economists, they're talking about a 1 to 2% hit to their GDP. I suspect much more, plus increased domestic social and political tension. Xi is in more trouble than we think. And Trump is using this leverage to push him. Now, there are certain powers out there, which we discussed before, that are trying to keep Xi and China from making a deal. Now, I think behind the scenes, I think Trump and Xi, they've already made a backroom deal. But I don't think they want to come out with the announcement. Think about North Korea. Trump and Kim Jong-un, behind the scenes, they did make a deal. But Trump kept it up that there was no deal made. We might be going to war. And I believe Xi and Trump, behind closed doors, in the back room someplace, they've already decided to have this deal. But they don't want to let the information out just yet. Because this would mean the mainstream media, the deep state, the central banks, they would all know that there has been a deal. And I think Trump wants to use this to his advantage. Same with Xi, same with Putin, to trap the central bank ultimately. And we know there are certain players that are still visiting China. Kaya Jones tweeted out the following. Obama was just in China. China has just met with Iran and discussed their nuclear deal. Iran threatens America again. Explain how any former president is allowed to meddle in foreign affairs. This clearly is a coup working actively against our current administration and our POTUS. And yes, we see it with Kerry and many others. The deep state is still out there. The central banks, as we know, they are still out there. Trump, the Patriots, and the other nations need to play this very, very carefully because they don't want to let their plan out just yet. They want the central bank, they want the mainstream media to think that there's trouble. They can't make a deal, that there's going to be these tariffs, and they want them focused on these tariffs and continually push the tariffs of why the entire global economic system is going to be coming down. Because think about this. If they're so focused on these tariffs, and that's the cause, and that's the problem, when the trade deals are made and the tariffs are removed, what do they have? They are then trapped. And this is exactly what they want. Because they need to continually point the fingers at the central bank. Because once the tariffs go away, once there's a trade deal, and the global economy is still sinking, how does the central bank explain it? What are they going to say? Oh, because the economy in the United States is too good, that's why it's failing everywhere else? Oh, because they got rid of the tariffs and they made a deal, it's not good for the global economy? Yes, they might move on to another subject line, but already people have recognized and realized that what they were saying is fake, phony, and false. Just like we have when they kept on saying retail is doing poorly because of snow in the Northeast. But remember, everyone can purchase everywhere else in the country where there is no snow. Then that fell apart. Then they said it was online. And then that fell apart. And now they're saying it's the tariffs. That's why things are slowing in retail. But it has nothing to do with any of that. It has to do with the central bank economic system. It's their system that is slowing. They don't want anyone to know that. Remember, the central bank, the Rothschilds and all these individuals, the elite that are not out in the forefront, they're hiding behind the curtain. They don't want anyone to know who they are. They don't want everyone to know that they're the ones who are orchestrating all of this. They don't want anyone looking at them. They want everyone looking at everyone in front of the curtain. All the other players, maybe they'll be leaders, congressmen, congresswomen, it doesn't make a difference. They want everyone looking at those people, even though they're behind the curtains trying to call the shots. It's not working with Trump. It's not going to be working with Australia anymore. It's not going to be working with Putin. It's not going to be working with Xi. It's not working with the UK. And they're having a problem. And they're getting worried. They're getting angry. They don't like the way things are going. And it's pissing them off because they're used to having full control behind the curtain. And they feel their control is slipping now. And they're getting very, very angry. And we'll be talking about this in the next report. But you can see that things are planned out this way on purpose because they need to trap the central bank. And that is the end game here. That is the end of the plan to get rid of the central bank system. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.